Good morning, students. In this class, we would have an introduction about the ode. In your syllabus, we have Shelley's Ode to the West Wind and Keats' very important ode, Ode to Autumn. So before reading those poems, let us first know what is an ode and what are the characteristics of an ode. So in this class, we would study about the origin, growth, and the development of this poetic form, the ode. An ode is a very important form of poetry. Ode is a form of personal or subjective poetry. The word ode is derived from the Greek word aid, which literally means to sing. So it was used by the Greeks for any kind of lyric verse, that is, for any song sung with the lyre or for the accompaniment of some dance. So Greek means ode is Greek in origin, and since it means to sing, therefore the music, it is a prominent part of an ode. Ode is not written about, it is addressed to. So generally odes, they begin up with an apostrophe, means an address to an object or to the subject for which ode is written. The ode prescribed in your syllabus, Ode to the West Wind, it begins up with O wild west wind. Ode on a Grecian urn, it begins up with Thou still unravaged bride of quietness. How an ode, it differs from other lyric poetry is because of its seriousness, because of its tone, and because of its subject matter. In the beginning, the odes, they were basically classified as choral odes and personal odes. Choral odes were the odes that were sung in the accompaniment of a chorus, whereas personal odes were the odes which were composed by individual poets or individual singers. So what are the characteristics of an ode? The ode is a form of an address, is in the form of an address, and it is exalted in subject matter. It's elevated in style and tone. The theme or the treatment, they are not trivial, they are not undignified. The poet, he is quite serious both in the choice of his subject and the manner in which he is presenting his subject. So in the presentation also, the poet, he is deep, and his emotions, he present them in a very sincere way. It is no longer the lyric proper for the emotion that are displayed in an ode that admits of development. It is full of deep and sincere emotion, and it is consciously elaborate, it is impressive, and it is diffused also. It is often addressed directly to the being or the object it treats of. And the opening lines, they contain an apostrophe, they contain an appeal, and which is characteristic, means the address continues while the poet defines the theme in the entire treatment of the poem. Sometimes the theme of an ode is an important public event like a national jubilee, the death of a distinguished personage, the commemoration of the founding of a great university. But generally, the theme of the ode is dignified and it deals with the emotions of the poet in a very elevated and exalted manner. The Greek ode, it had two forms, the Dorian or Pindaric ode, or the Lesbian or Horatian ode. The Dorian ode is so called from the district and dialect in which it arose. Like many other important forms of poetry, the ode had its birth in ancient Greece, and Pindar, a Greek poet, is the great writer of odes in antiquity. Because of the sublime and soaring qualities of his poetry, Pindar was compared to an eagle. So, the Dorian or the Pindaric ode, it was choric and was sung to the accompaniment of a dance. Its structure, it was borrowed from the movement of the dancer. It consisted of three parts, or a stanza form known as strophe, during the recitation of which the dancers made a turn from the right to the left. A similar stanza form known as the antistrophe, means during which the dancers made a counter turn from the left to the right. And the third stanza form known as the epode, during which the dancers, they stood still. So this sequence of strophe, antistrophe and an epode could be repeated any number of times in this ode. The Lesbian ode is named after the island of Lesbos, where it originally flourished. The Lesbian ode was simpler in form than the Pindaric ode and has therefore proved easier to imitate. It consists of a number of short stanzas similar in length and arrangement. The treatment is direct and dignified, and the thought clearly developed. It was popularized in Latin by two great Roman writers, Horace and Catullus. Therefore, it is also known as Horatian ode, a practice which tends to obscure their Greek origin. The odes, they are either regular or irregular, means the regular odes, they follow a particular stanza of equal line and meter, whereas in irregular odes, they vary in number and length of stanza and meter. Odes of Shelley and Keats, which are prescribed in your syllabus, they are regular odes, means they are composed in the form of regular odes. So notice the characteristics of ode while you read odes through the poems prescribed in your syllabus: Shelley's Ode to the West Wind and Keats' Ode to Autumn.